the YouTube channel Love Allah 328, on behalf of Incognito Islamic Productions, published a video titled Questions No Atheist Can Answer, and within it, well, the title's pretty self-explanatory, right?
Do you not see how those who dispute Allah's signs are turned away from the right path? The atheist has nothing but believing in trivialities and impossibilities.
They asked, or more accurately asserted, that there's 9 questions that no atheist can answer, and not surprisingly, each was riddled with fallacies. The first is the argument from ignorance fallacy, which occurs when someone asserts that because we don't know or understand something, this somehow validates their assumed conclusion, and it most often takes the form of, we don't know X, therefore Y, such as, we don't know how the pyramids were built, therefore aliens. The second is the personal incredulity fallacy, which occurs when someone doesn't personally understand something and therefore asserts that it's false. For example, we, meaning I, don't know or understand the evidence for natural selection, therefore there is no evidence for natural selection. And the third is the non sequitur fallacy, which occurs when a conclusion doesn't follow from its premises, such as, people died from cancer before cigarettes were invented, therefore smoking doesn't cause cancer. Anyhow, with these fallacies in mind, let's get on with it.
What are the questions that no atheist will be able to answer? A. How did existence emerge out of no space and no time? How can an atheist assume that his atheism is valid when the moment of the start of existence is a stark proof on the creativity of the Creator and his ability to originate existence?
Okay, so there are several problems here. The first is that this is an argument from ignorance. The second is that it's an implicit black and white fallacy. And the third is that it's a non sequitur. Put simply, it's we don't know how the universe began, therefore Allah. But more specifically, it's because atheists don't know how the universe began, therefore the only other alternative, that being Allah, is validated. The problem, of course, is that even if atheists had no answer to this question, assuming that it's a justified question, which it isn't, this wouldn't somehow validate the existence of Allah. Furthermore, an atheist is simply someone who isn't convinced that a God exists, and so while irreligious people like myself are atheists, technically so too are Buddhists and many other religious and spiritual people, who, like Muslims, insist on a creation myth.
B. How did no life transform into life? How did matter mutate from lifelessness into living cell? With all our techniques and advancements, we cannot, till this very moment, originate the simplest form of life. So how can we explain the origination of life in the dead matter? Wouldn't we have been at least able to originate a form of life that supersedes the one that originated in the dead matter by at least 1,000,000 times?
Now, just like the previous question, this is an overt argument from ignorance, implicit black and white fallacy, and a non sequitur, and because of this, it suffers all the same problems. It's, we don't know how life emerged, therefore Allah. Furthermore, depending on the definition of life, we actually know a great deal about its origin, and have even created amino acids, which are the building blocks of life, numerous times. And what's more, Muslims, like all religious people, don't actually know the answer to this question, and while we're at it, nor do they know the answer to most of the questions within this video, they just assert that they do. And they treat the atheist's humility of admitting that they don't know as a weakness, when really it's a strength. Pretending to know something that you don't isn't a virtue.
H. How did the genome emerge within the living cells? A code must require a coder, and this genome designates what each cell will be used for. Doesn't this prove that there is a unique maker dictating very specific codes?
I warned you that there's a lot of fallacies within this video, didn't I? The first part of this question is an argument from ignorance, and again an implicit black and white fallacy, because it's we don't know how the genome emerged within living cells, therefore Allah. And the second part is an indirect personal incredulity fallacy, because while we refer to DNA as a language, it's not a language in the colloquial sense, and it's very clearly written, which is another loaded term, by natural selection.
I. Where did morality and values come from? When it comes to atheism, atheism sees the universe as a tumultuous sea of atoms that makes no sense and have no purpose, which was one of the driving motives to immorality and depravity. But since morality does exist, then atheism is invalid.
Yeah, we've already addressed this, haven't we? For the last time, some atheists believe that morality comes from a non-theist religious source, others believe that it's a cultural construct, and others see it as the realization that we are born with the capacity to feel pain and the desire to avoid it.
To sum up our argumentation against atheism, since there is light, then there has to be a source for this light.
Sure, that's reasonable.
Since there is shade, then there has to be a body causing the shade.
A body? I hope you're not going from something to someone without sufficient reason.
Since there are intricate objects starting from the quarks and ending with the galaxies, then there has to be an originator.
What do you mean by originator?
The Quranic argumentation is the strongest ever.
I knew it!
Those who reject the book, and that with which we sent our messengers, shall soon know.
Ah, what a nice subtle threat to end with.
Quranic argumentation is the strongest ever.
Or burn for eternity for using the brain that this loving God allegedly gave you.